Bitcoin has pulled back 16% since it hit $69,000 just a couple weeks ago, and it's left a lot of traders and investors sad. So what happens now? It's pulled back. Is this the time to buy the dip, or are we looking at a much bigger correction? Is there a top end Bitcoin? Are we looking at something that says we're going back to like 40 or 30,000? Or should we be getting in right here? We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about Ethereum, and we're going to talk about Litecoin. We're going to talk about some of the other coins as well. Let's go ahead and start off by pulling up the Bitcoin chart. Now, what I find the most interesting here is that before we were sitting on a breakout at around 64,000. We were thinking to ourselves, okay, if this thing can break out above that price level, we're going to be off to the races. And that was marked by where it was at in its previous all-time highs that were established back in April. Well, we get to it and we have a breakout, and it immediately sells off the next day, and then it starts to consolidate, but it didn't see any heavy selling. And then lo and behold, just a little over a week ago, it broke out again, and it looked like it was going to sustain the move until a couple days later, where it just sold off extremely hard, settled in at this breakout level. And that was fine too, because a lot of times your breakouts, they will pull back to where they originally broke out at before eventually seeing that nice burst higher. But here, that didn't happen. Instead, we had a massive sell-off just 2 days ago. But what I'm finding interesting here, and at least so far, is that we're holding this 50-day moving average. And this is going to be key going forward. It's going to be the difference between whether or not we stick the landing here at the 50-day moving average, which has tested the previous 2 trading sessions, or are we going to pull back to this much bigger trend line that goes back to the July lows? And that's also a possibility here too. So it's going to be very important, as we've seen over the last couple of days, that it holds this 50-day moving average. Now, what concerns me is that there's not a lot of price history with the 50-day moving average. Only the last couple of days where it's shown any sign of reverence or respect for this popular MA. In fact, you'd have to go back to the beginning of this year and January time period, and then again in March, where it actually saw some legitimate bounces off of the rising trend line. So that's going to be key going forward, and it's hanging on by a thread. If it doesn't hold the 50-day moving average, then I'd be starting to watch this recent low established back in October, late October. Does it hold this recent low, or is it going to continue to sell off further, which at that point I would expect it to test this rising trend line in the low 50s, where I would expect it to test this rising trend line here in the low 50s. Now, what about Litecoin? Because this one has been taking off of late, but then just like Bitcoin, it hit a wall and it sold off pretty hard as well. Here you had the triangle breakout, and this triangle breakout looked really impressive because it went on about a 3-day rally. It went from 215 all the way up into the 300s. It was a 50% rally almost, but then, like a lot of these stocks that get pumped up way too fast, they get dumped at an equal rate. So now what I'm looking for is, okay, is this rising trend line that it held dear to going back to late September? Is this trend line, though it be a short-term trend line, is it going to hold up for Litecoin? If so, you have a good bounce opportunity off of these 2 support levels, which converged a couple of days ago and are starting to split apart a little bit now. But nonetheless, it's a really good opportunity for it to bounce off of one of these 2 nearby support levels. That's where I would be looking to get long at with Litecoin. And then you have Ethereum. It's been on this unapologetic rally going all the way back to September. And it's just been until the past week where it's actually started to pull back some. Again, you have the 50-day moving average here in play. Is it going to stick the landing there like Bitcoin is trying to do? Or is it going to pull back further? The good thing for Ethereum, just like Litecoin, but not like Bitcoin, is that it has some nearby support, some major support, in fact, that goes all the way back to May. So the big question is, can it hold this support level right there and then go ahead and manage to bounce? If not, then you have this rising trend line that goes all the way back to July of this past summer. If this support level doesn't hold, we need to start targeting this support level for a potential bounce. And then you have Voyager Token, which has become very popular over the last 24 hours with this massive breakout that you saw, sending it from 275 all the way up to 475 before pulling back into the low 4s. Do you get in at this point? No. And here's why. Remember how Bitcoin was breaking out? It was hitting 69,000. Everybody thought, okay, this is the next leg to 100,000. And then where's it at now? It's trading back at 60,000. It pulled back dramatically, 16% in fact, from the highs to the recent lows. You don't want to be getting into Voyager and risking that same kind of scenario, but to a much greater extent, because if this one pulls back, it's going to be far greater. When we're trading breakouts, we have to get in when it is not that obvious yet. when it's just starting to break out. You have to anticipate the bigger moves. You can't get in after the bigger moves. So with Voyager here, you had an opportunity to get long, but you had to get in around 309. If you didn't get in at 309, you missed out on the opportunity. Now, what you need to wait for is a potential pullback. A couple areas that would target is not only the original breakout level, that would be the best case scenario because it would give you a really good opportunity to get long at a much lower price and hopefully be able to capitalize on a bounce thereafter. But if that doesn't work, then you have a retest of the previous highs, which would be around 354. So the more conservative approach would be to wait for a full-scale pullback all the way to the original breakout level. That happens a lot of times, but if not, the other place that you could target would be about 354 here. But I do like the volume here. There's really good, strong volume pouring in. That's also going to be key in the days ahead. Can it sustain above average volume like it has done over the last 2 sessions? And all, whether it's Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, Voyager, or any of the other coins that are out there, you got to manage the risk. You got to plan your trades before you ever get in. And you got to make sure that if you get caught in a massive pullback, that you're not going to be bag holding for the next few months, waiting or hoping at least that it comes back for you. Because sometimes, just like stocks, they don't always come back the way you expect them to. Sometimes they go much, much further and only recover a nominal amount. So make sure that you're protecting those profits. Make sure you're protecting your capital first and foremost. And I think you'll be okay. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the join button down below and get all of my market research that I provide each and every day. That's going to include my daily and weekly master watch lists. You're also going to get the most intriguing charts of the day, plus FANG updates and the S&P 500, NASDAQ 100, and the Russell 2000 updates. Let me know down in the comments below. What's your approach right now with this crypto pullback? Are you buying the dip right now, or are you waiting for lower prices down below? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you guys, and God bless.